Hello y'all, I'm going to tell you a story about a minor incident, nothing important. Happened about 1949 or 1950. I was 3 or 4 years old. I know you're not supposed to remember what happened when you're 3 or 4 years old, but I think I was 3, might have been 4. Here's the story anyway, the way I remember it. And my brother Harold, just older brother Harold, was down by the well, the old dug well that's down the slope from the house and across a little dirt track that goes down to the fields and eventually to the Washita River. It did in those days. It ain't even there anymore. So we was down there messing around. I don't know what we was doing. Harold was probably trying to find something for us to get into. And my brother Frankie, he was a little older than us. Frankie, if you call him Frankie, you can't call him Frankie now, he's Frank. But them days he was Frankie. He came running up and said they caught a big cat and they're bringing it up to the house. I knew them that they'd caught this big cat would be Daddy and whoever was with him. I don't know if I knew at that time, but I remember now that I knew it would be Daddy and somebody. So they were bringing this big cat up to the house. Well, I wasn't quite sure I understood all that because I knew about cats. There was a big old tomcat lived up under the porch up there. I know he was a tomcat because his name was Tom. And he wasn't much use for anything. He didn't lay there. Didn't do nothing but lay there under the porch all day and sleep. Unless Harold was poking at him with a stick or something. He didn't move much. But long about dark he'd crawl out and lick himself all over and then head off to the woods, and about daylight he'd come slipping back maybe with a few scratches and a satisfied look on his face and crawl back under the porch. So I knew about cats. And Mama was in the house, but the windows were all open, so of course she could hear what was going on. So she came out and said, "Well, where are they?" And Frankie says, they stopped down at the slough to put him in the water before they bring him on up. Put him in the water for a little while. Now I was really getting confused, but I didn't know why anybody make a big deal about a cat. And I really didn't know why you're going to put a cat in the water. But then Harold told me that he was talking about a catfish. Actually, he didn't tell me that he hit me on the shoulder real hard and said, "Dummy, they're talking about a catfish." So since Harold was a year older than me, 13 months and 4 days older than me, he knew just about everything there was needed to be known anyway. I figured out what was happening. So we waited, and in a little while they came back up here with this catfish, and it was bigger than me. It might have been about as big as Harold, and he was a head taller than me almost. I don't know how big it was. It was big. Probably it wouldn't seem as big now, but it was a big catfish then, and they was real proud of it. And not much goes on in those part of the country in those days, so there's a big story around. Even though Mr. Rogers, old Bob Rogers, that lived down on Oil Creek up on the hill above Oil Creek there by the old closed down glass plant, he stopped by and looked at that before he borrowed money on some cows that he didn't have and took the money and left for Arizona, and got his picture on a wanted poster. That's a different story. But anyway, I don't know what happened to that catfish, but I think probably now catfish was a big part of our diet in those days. But it's a big catfish, and there's more catfish to catch, and there's squirrels to shoot, and there's vegetables to eat. And even more important, or just as important as food, since we had some food, just as important was money, because we didn't have any of that. So I think what happened was Daddy caught him a ride to town about 20 miles away. Had to catch him a ride because we didn't have any transportation. He took that catfish in there and sold it to somebody and got a little money in his pocket and probably bought him some Prince Albert tobacco and some rolling papers and stuff. So that was like I say, it was a big deal for that part of the country, since ain't nothing ever happened there. Wasn't any shootings or anything like that. Nobody stole anything. It's just you saw your neighbors once a week, maybe, if that often. That's about it. So the moral of this story, well, I don't guess there is a moral to this story. It's just a piece of life that happened back a long time ago that most of you never will see. Most of you didn't see and you never will see, and it's just a different kind of life. And it was a good life, and it was good memories. Even though it was hard times, it was good memories. So say hi to Goober, and goodbye.